Guys, welcome. I'm joining Standard Chartered annual general meeting that is taking place today. I'm a bit late. In fact, I was busy with the home chores. I was just called by my friend Rosie. Rosie Carl, thank you so much for caring. Yeah, she just told me, wow, maybe you've not yet joined the AGM. And so I ran to come and join. And so I was quite late. So they have the first advertisement, introduction, those ones. Maybe you'll go to their website and see more. But I will give you from the time I have tuned in. So welcome to Standard Chartered Bank annual general meeting virtually. So thank you.
Financial results in summary, which you can read as I mentioned from page 11 to 15. Our operating income is up 23%, driven a lot by net interest income, which grew 32%. Non-interest income increased by 6%. Our operating expenses increased 20%, which mainly reflects the impact of inflation. Our impairment on loans and advances increased by 2.1 billion, reflecting continued active management of the credit portfolio. Our balance sheet remained strong, growing by 13% to 429 billion, the highest ever. Loans and advances were up 17%, representing increased customer demand. Customer deposits were up 23%, with funding quality remaining high, with both current account and savings accounting for 97% of total customer deposits. The liquidity ratio, which is an important ratio that we track, closed at 66.3% against a regulatory threshold of 20%. And total capital ratio at 17.84% is well above the regulatory minimum and within our capital risk appetite. We've also recently just announced our Q1 2024 results, and our operating income is up 21.4%, while our profit before tax is up 35%. Concluding remarks. We are happy to note the improvements in the macroeconomic environment. There's increased investor confidence because of the turnaround from the partial buyback of the June 2024 Eurobond and offshore inflows to the infrastructure bond issue in February 2024. Inflation is now down to 5% from an average of 7.7% in 2023. The shilling has appreciated by 16% year to date, from 157 to the dollar in January to 131. The foreign exchange reserves have increased by 8%, which is now at 7.13 billion, which is 3.8 months of import cover from 6.6 or 3.5 millions of import cover. We are optimistic that we will leverage on the trade corridors in Africa, Middle East and Asia, the digitization of services by the government and its increased focus on sustainability. We remain watchful of the headwinds with the continued geopolitical tensions in Russia, Ukraine and Israel-Palestine. We are also monitoring the shipping routes disruptions, impact on global trade and locally, the proposed finance bill, which proposes an increase of banking services costs. In conclusion, I thank our board, the management team, and our dedicated colleagues who are committed to providing exemplary services to our clients, which translates to shareholder value. Thank you. I will now hand back over to the chair to continue the rest of the program.
Thank you, Kariuki. Before we consider the formal business of the meeting, I'd like to remind shareholders that voting will be by poll and has been the practice adopted by companies for the conduct of virtual AGMs. Shareholders can vote in favor of, against, or abstain from any resolution. Kindly note that voting will be closed after the last agenda item. Shareholders are encouraged to continue voting before then. The results will be announced before the close of the meeting. We now move to the second agenda item, adoption of the annual report and audited financial statements. Shareholders, the annual audited financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2023, including the reports of the directors and statutory auditor, were made available to you through our website. I propose that we take the report as read. I will now call upon Mr. Tom Nyakoe, the representative from our auditor, Ernst & Young, to highlight their audit opinion to members. The opinion is covered on pages 116 to page 120 of the annual report. Tom.
Thank you, Chair. As I report, our audit report is on pages 116 to 120, but I will present on a summarized fashion. Independent auditor's report to the members of Standard Chartered Bank Kenya Limited. Report on the audit of the consolidated and separate financial statements. We have audited the accompanying consolidated and separate financial statements of Standard Chartered Bank Kenya Limited, the company, and the subsidiary together the group, set out on pages 121 to 223, which comprise the consolidated and separate statement of financial position as at 1st December 2023, and the consolidated and separate statement of profit or loss, the consolidated and separate statement of other comprehensive income, consolidated and separate statement of changes in equity, and consolidated and separate statement of cash flows for the year that ended, and notes to the consolidated and separate financial statements, including material accounting policy information. Basis of opinion. We conducted our audit in accordance with international standards on auditing. We are independent of the group and the company in accordance with international codes of ethics for professional accountants, together with the ethical requirements that are relevant to audit of the consolidated and separate financial statement in Kenya. And we have fulfilled our ethical responsibilities in accordance with these requirements. We believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis of opinion. Key audit matters. Key audit matters are those matters that, in our professional judgment, who are most significant in the audit of the consolidated and separate financial statements of the current period. These matters were addressed in the context of audit of the consolidated and separate financial statements as a whole, and informing our opinion down, and we do not provide a separate opinion on these matters. The key audit matters we consider for 2023 audit were expected credit losses on loans and advances to customers, provision of contingent liabilities in respect of claims and litigations, responsibilities of the directors for the consolidated and separate financial statements. The directors are responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of the consolidated and separate financial statement according to international financial reporting standards and the requirements of Kenya's Act 2015. And for such internal control as the director determines necessary to enable the preparation of consolidated and separate financial statements that are free from material misstatements, whether due to fraud or error. In preparing the consolidated and separate financial statements, the directors are responsible for assessing the group's appeal to continuous going concern, disclosing as applicable matters related to going concern and using going concern basis of accounting unless the directors either intend to liquidate the group and the company or to cease operations or have no realistic alternative but to do so. Auditors' responsibilities. Our objective is to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the consolidated and separate financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatements, whether due to fraud or error, and to issue an auditor report that includes our opinion. Reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance, but it's not a guarantee that an audit conducted in accordance with us will always detect the material misstatements when it exists. Misstatement can arise from fraud or error and considered material if, individually, on the aggregate, they could reasonably be expected to influence the economic decision of users taken on the basis of these consolidated and separate financial statements. Opinion. In our opinion, the consolidated and separate financial statements present fairly, in all material respects, the consolidated and separate financial position of the group and the company as at 1st December 2023, and these consolidated and separate financial performance, and these consolidated and separate cash flows for the year that ended in accordance with national financial reporting standards and the manner required by the Kenyan Government Act 2015. Report on other matters prescribed by the Kenyan Government 2015. As required by the Kenyan Government Act 2015, We report to you, based on audit, that 1, in our opinion, the information given in the report of the directors on pages 67 to 68 is consistent with the consolidated and separate financial statement. And 2, in our opinion, the auditable part of the director remuneration report on pages 109 to 112 has been properly prepared in accordance with Kenyan Sambans Act 2015. This independent audit report was signed on 28 March 2024 in Nairobi by CPA Tomnia Koek, President at 223 and on behalf of Ernst & Young, Certified Public Accountant. Thank you, Chair. That's a summarized version of the report.
Thank you, Tom. Members, as you're all aware, shareholders were given an opportunity to ask questions and seek clarifications prior to this meeting with respect to the financial statements and the resolutions contained in the notice and agenda of this meeting. Responses were provided to shareholders who asked questions and sought clarifications prior to the AGM. Having said that, we will provide an additional opportunity to the shareholders with pressing questions to ask them through the questions button on your streaming device or via the mobile phone USSD code, which should appear on your screen. Please note that we may not manage to respond to all questions raised. However, we encourage shareholders to continue posting questions on the live stream. All questions received will be collated and the responses will be published on our website. Shareholders, let me now invite those wishing to call in with questions to proceed and dial in. Hello and thank you. Hello and thank you for...
Hello, Madam Chair.
Hello, please state your name and where you're calling us
My
from.
name is Kimani from Thika.
Please proceed to ask your question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have one comment. One comment is thank you for giving us the dividend, a very good dividend for this year. So I say you have done a good job. To the question, Madam Chair, I can just talk about the dividend policy. At which percentage do you give to the shareholders? And then on page 4, I have seen the five-year summary. I have seen the impairment losses. So I would like to know how it came from up from 74 million to 3 billion. On P&L side, operating expenses was up, so we need more clarification on that. On the balance sheet, that is the final question. I can see the retained earnings, it is 40.8 billion. Do you consider to give us a bonus or either a spread or a special dividend? Because that amount is a lot of money there. And also, the final clarity is on the total assets and liabilities. I want that balance sheet to move from 4.8 billion to 1 trillion. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimani. We have noted your questions and will respond to them after all the questions are in. Have a good day. Hello and thank you for calling in. Please state your name and where you're calling us from.
Okay. My name is Esther Otieno. You can hear me?
Yes, please
Hello?
proceed with your question.
Yeah. My name is Esther Otieno, and I've noticed you're using value at risk analysis.
Okay.
Okay.
Please proceed to ask your question.
I have noticed you're using value at risk analysis
Okay.
for mitigation of the exposure of exchange rate risk. How do you measure and manage such risks? Also, what type of exposure are you exposed to? Question number 2. If we were to ignore the volatility of the stock market. Would you say that shareholders' wealth is determined by investment opportunities and not financing policy? Considering that you've given us a dividend which is 480% of the par value. Question number 3. What effect has IFRS 9 had on the bottom line? What percentage of the total loans is the provision? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Esther. We've noted your questions and for calling in. Please state your name and where you're calling us from.
Hello, Madam Chair. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to ask you a question. I have some observations. My name is Emmanuel Masasa, CDS 12443, calling from Nairobi. I thank the board and the entire employees of Standard Chartered Bank for the effort to produce good results for the year under review and giving us a very good dividend of 29 shillings. Thank you so much. I have two observations. One, the bank sponsors a lot of sports. Is there any basic small returns you get? Secondly, the bank does not get all details in targeting small traders. Why? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. We have noted your questions and we'll respond to them after the questions, all the questions are in. Hello, and thank you for calling in. Please state your name and where you're calling us from.
Oh, my son, sir?
Please Yes, please state your name and where you're calling us from.
Do you hear me, Pastor?
Yes, please proceed to ask your question.
My name is Chami. Now, my question, Madam Chair, is, now, on page number 4, impairment losses on financial instruments, why has it increased so much to billions from millions? Second question, impairment losses on loans and advances to customers, why has it increased so much from previous year? And what number are you striving to be? Are you going to be number 1 in this year or next year? Are you working very hard? Our new CEO, Mr. Nari, are you working very hard to strive to number 1? To compete all these banks in Kenya, as Ugandans, as in Uganda, I think they start become number 1. Those are only my 3 questions, but the other one is to compliment you. You have never met, and after this, we shall be meeting again. Thank you.
Thank you, Chemi. We've noted your question and we'll respond to them after all the questions are in.
Yeah.
Hello, and thank you for calling in. Please state your name and where you're calling us from.
Okay, my name is Mary Paulina.
Please proceed to ask your question.
Okay, my name is Mary Paulina. First of all, my name is Mary Paulina.
Yes, Mary, I can hear you.
First of all, I congratulate the board for the performance in the last financial year. My first question is, what's the company's strategy towards climate change in 2024? The second question is, how will the company adjust given the change in the finance bill 2024? Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. We've noted your question and we'll respond to it after all the questions are in. Thank you, shareholders. Before we go ahead to respond to the questions, we shall provide you with the guidelines on how to cast your votes for the resolutions placed before this AGM and which are summarized in the notice of this meeting. Please watch the upcoming video which will guide you on the voting process.
Welcome to the 38th Annual General Meeting of Standard Chartered Bank Kenya Limited. Voting for the AGM resolutions is currently open. Karibu kwenye mkutano mkuu wa 38 wa mwaka wa Standard Chartered Bank Kenya Limited. Upigaji kura kwa maazimio ya AGM kwa sasa umefunguliwa. A text message and an email prompt has been sent to all eligible shareholders and proxy holders with instructions on how to vote. Those with multiple accounts and holding proxies on behalf of other shareholders will be prompted to vote for the various accounts consecutively. Ujumbe mfupi na barua pepe umetumwa kwa wanahisa wote wanaohitimu na wawakilishi, yani proxy, ulio na maagizo ya jinsi ya kupiga kura. Kwa wale walio na akaunti zaidi ya moja au walitumwa kuwakilisha, yani proxy, watahamasishwa kupiga kura kwa akaunti mbalimbali mfululizo. Registered shareholders and proxies will key in and dial the following USSD code from any mobile phone network in Kenya. Wanahisa na wawakilishi, yani proxy, watapiga msimbo wa USSD ufuatao kwenye simu zao. Msimbo huu unaweza kutumika kwa mitandao yote ya simu nchini Kenya. Once the shareholder chooses the language, the next prompt will be as follows. Mwanahisa atakapochagua lugha, atapata jibu lifuatalo. Welcome to the Standard Chartered Bank Kenya Limited AGM. Reply with 1. Karibu kwa mkutano mkuu wa mwaka wa Standard Chartered Bank Kenya Limited. Bonyeza 1. Once the shareholder has responded, they shall receive the following prompt. Mwanahisa atapata jibu lifuatalo. Accounts registered with your number are listed below. Reply with 1 to vote using the first listed account. Akaunti iliyosajiliwa kwa nambari yako imeorodheshwa hapa chini. Bonyeza 1 kupiga kura. Once the shareholder has responded, they shall receive the following prompt. Mwanahisa atapata jibu lifuatalo. Adopt annual report and financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2023, together with the directors, statement of the chairman, CEO, and the auditor's report thereon. Reply with 1 if in favor. Reply with 2 if against. Reply with 3 to abstain. Kupitisha taarifa ya mwaka na taarifa za fedha kwa mwaka ulioisha tarehe 31 Disemba mwaka 2023, pamoja na mkurugenzi, taarifa za mwenyekiti, mkurugenzi mkuu na wahasibu. Bonyeza 1 kukubali. Bonyeza 2 kukataa. Bonyeza 3 kuazilia. Continue following the same prompts for all other resolutions. Shareholders with multiple accounts shall be prompted to vote until they exhaust all their accounts. Endelea kufuata mchakato kwa hoja zingine. Mwanahisa anaweza kurudia mchakato mzima ili kupiga kura tena ikiwa ana akaunti zaidi ya moja. The live stream link for this meeting was sent to all eligible shareholders via SMS and email. Once you click the link, you will find the resolution tab on the dashboard. Click the button and thereafter click the voting options against each resolution as per your choice. Once completed, click the Submit Vote for Resolutions button to complete voting. Kiungo cha mtiririko wa moja kwa moja cha mkutano huu kilitumwa kwa wanahisa wote wanaostahiki kupitia SMS na barua pepe. Mara baada ya kubofya kiungo, utapata kichupo cha resolution kwenye dashibodi. Bofya kitufe na kisha ubofye chaguo za kupiga kura dhidi ya kila azimio kulingana na chaguo lako. Baada ya kukamilika, bofya kitufe cha Submit Vote for Resolutions ili kukamilisha kupiga kura. Closing of voting will be announced by the chairman. Kufungwa kwa upigaji kura kutatangazwa na mwenyekiti. Results of the resolutions voted on will be published on the company's website within 24 hours following conclusion of the AGM. Matokeo ya uchaguzi yatachapishwa kwenye wavuti ya kampuni kati ya masaa 24 kufuatia hitimisho la huu mkutano.
Welcome back. I will now ask the CEO, Kariuki Ngari, and CFO, Chamtai Murgo, to answer the questions shareholders have asked in this meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for those questions, which were very good questions. I'll start with the one about number one. I think it's not, I would like to state, it's not our intention to be number one. It's not a strategy. We have a very clear strategy, which is focusing on the affluent segment, the network, mass retail, and sustainability, which I articulated how we did in 2023. So our focus is to ensure that in our chosen segments, we are the preferred bank for our chosen clients, for our preferred clients. So we want to be very clear. For instance, the affluent segment, we are winning market share in that space. We are fulfilling the needs of those clients in that segment, and we are doing it well. And anytime any client who falls under the affluent segment, or even who is not our client, is thinking about solutions within the affluent, whether it's investments or lending, they will come to us. That is our strategy. As a bank that is in Africa, Middle East, Europe, Americas, Asia, we want to ensure that all the corridors, when the clients want to move across from Asia into Kenya or Africa, or from Americas into Kenya, they are considering Standard Chartered. So that's our strategy. So we are very clear what we want to focus on. Then there'll be a financial outcome. And the financial outcome is what is being reflected by why we are here today, and for you shareholders, what you'll be getting as a dividend. So that's we want to be very, very clear with that. Very focused on our strategy, very focused on the chosen segment that we have chosen to participate in, and ensure that in those segments we are winning and ensuring our customers are feeling they are winning. There was a question on SMEs. How come we are not lending to SMEs? We do. This is always everything that we do is based on our risk appetite. Just last year, we relaunched, earlier this year, we relaunched our what we call medium enterprises segment, just showing our commitment to this segment to ensure that the clients within the medium enterprises, which is the SMEs, have got the right products, they've got the right solutions. And underpinned with this, we've got a very strong sub-segment we call business banking that focuses on the much smaller business banking clients. And in this segment, we use technology. Technology is a clear winner to ensure that they can be able to transact using technology means. So we are very, very focused on this segment as well. So we continue to lend selectively to clients. And to say, when I look back in terms of the contribution, the business banking continues to grow in double digits in revenue terms, which reflects that we are also making we are moving in the right direction in this, as far as strategy is concerned. There was a very good question on sustainability matters. What is our strategy on climate change in 2024? As I mentioned, for the last 3 years, sustainability has been a key pillar of our strategy, and we are very clear in terms of focusing on what we need to do internally, which we call Scope 1. What are we doing as an organization? I've highlighted some of the things we are doing and winning internally. For instance, when you look at our carbon emissions that continue to reduce, translating to most of our electricity is coming from solar. That is working very well. Recycling our paper, recycling our water, and putting all the lighting within the network on LED. These are very, very specific actions that we are taking to ensure that as a bank we are making our contributions, and we have made a commitment to be net zero by 2030 as an organization. The second part is helping our clients that are required for clients to transition to better means of production, whether it's on especially on electricity. That is something that we're very, very focused on. I talked about a sustainability-linked loan that we launched one of our big clients, and this loan is purposely for them to be able to transition their operations as well. So these are both in technical terms we call Scope 1 and Scope 2, where you're focusing internally as an organization. What are we doing? We are very clear what we want to do, and Scope 2, what we are doing with the clients and partners. And if you look, our participation in the African Climate Week that was held in Nairobi last year, we were very active as a bank, bringing in different partners so that we can partner and we can be able to avail the resources that are required for clients to transition. That is very, very, very important for us. So we are clear that for us to live for us to live a better world, and one of our stances, as I mentioned at the beginning, is accelerating zero. This is very clear focus and our intention as an organization that we want to be part of the change that must happen for the entire world to accelerate and limit the damage that has already been caused in the world. I think those are the main questions there's one question on sports. What do we get from the return on the money we spend on sponsorship on sports? We are very proud of the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon. We celebrated 20 years last year, which is epic to have been doing this sponsorship for the last 20 years. And it's always exciting when you see there are over 23,000 participants that showed up for the marathon. Up to last year, 330 participants, majority of them being Kenyans, have come and run, and they continue running on the last Sunday of every October every year, apart from the year that there was COVID. And the question is, what do we get out of this? First of all, it puts Kenya on the international map, which is very good for our country. And secondly, it gives an opportunity for people to set themselves personal targets, which is very, very important. And most importantly, we use these events to raise funds for our Future Makers program. Every participant contributes some money, and that money goes into a kitty that we use for our community events. And also, it showcases Standard Chartered as an organization. The brand value of the marathon cannot be underestimated. And then, as you know, globally as a group, we are very active. We are supporters, big supporters of Standard Chartered, of Liverpool Football Club, wearing our shirts. It's very important for us that we want to be part of what is happening the sports world, to encourage other fans to participate. And we are very proud of what we get out of this, which is just ensuring that everybody understands and actively supports, participates in these sports. So thank you very much for those very good questions. I think the other questions I will now hand over to our CFO, Chemutai, to take on the questions. Chemutai.
Good morning, shareholders. I will take the questions asked. I think I will combine a number of them because they relate to the same matter. Starting with the dividend policy. A shareholder has asked whether we do have a certain percentage that we target when we are determining the dividend. What I would say is really the dividend depends on the performance, and our performance is really how we execute our strategy, and the strategy is what you, our shareholders, have approved. So we are really pleased that in 2023 we have been able to execute that strategy very well, and it has given us good results, and we are therefore able to give our shareholders a return. Our philosophy on the dividend depends also on the requirement from the Central Bank of Kenya around what we call capital. We get a license from the Central Bank of Kenya, and we have to inject capital, if you like, which is, share capital and retained earnings. And really for us, the capital for banks is very, very high. And it depends on the product. The more risky the product, the higher the requirement to keep capital. I have mentioned, I think every time at the AGM, that for instance, when we make 1 million shilling loan to our customer, we must have an equivalent of 145,000 shillings in capital, or 14.5% of that loan. And therefore you can see that is very, very high, and that is through retained earnings or share capital. So for 2023, the total capital that we have, based on the risk profile of the products we have, predominantly, obviously, the high one is loans, was about 288 billion, compared with a total balance sheet of 429. That means for 67% of that balance sheet, we must keep capital. And that total capital for those elements required 41 billion shillings, which in fact is the total of the retained earnings. So that retained earnings is actually the anchor of the balance sheet that we have. The 10 billion, as you can see, our total capital is 51, is actually for growth for future into 2024. If we have to grow our loans, we need capital to grow our loans, as well as a buffer. You have noted that there is a lot of volatility in banking, and therefore you must keep a buffer to support you. So in summary, based on our good performance and noting we had to put aside some capital for 2024, we were able to return 29 shillings per share to our shareholders compared to the earnings per share of 36. In essence, we were able to return 80% of the profit after tax. I think that is commendable. And we try to ensure we make good profits so that we can give the shareholders a good return. Second one, impairment losses did increase in the year. It increased by 2.1 billion. We continue managing our non-performing portfolio. If you look at it in the year, the non-performing loans actually decreased to 16 billion. That, when you compare to the total loans, was 9.7% and has fallen below 10%. And that is a very good achievement, because for every 100 shillings we lend to our customers, only 9.7 is non-performing, and the industry percentage is much higher. However, during the year we continued to manage the existing portfolio, and we did take some impairment in the year on some of the legacy names. In terms of operating expenses, the CEO had mentioned in his remarks, this went up. Inflation, as you know, was heightened in 2023, and also the exchange rate was also very high, meaning that if we have a dollar-denominated expense, that would result in a higher Kenya shilling equivalent. The other question was asked about value at risk, which is a tool that is used by bankers to manage the volatility in the financial markets, managing interest rates, exchange rates, etc. And we know how volatile the Kenya shilling was in 2023. So it is a good tool that supports us. And we do have various policies that allow us to mitigate various risks, and you can actually look at our chief risk officer's report. We do have a number of risks, and we do have risk appetites associated with each of that risk, and then we do have mitigation plans, and then obviously all of those also do determine the level of capital that we give. The final question which I picked was on for IFRS 9, which is the policy that allows us to manage impairment losses in banks. It is a policy that was implemented in 2018 by globally, and it is a policy that has settled very well, and we do use it dynamically, and every month we do determine the impairment losses that hit our P&L. What I would say is the policy is driven also by macroeconomic variables, and if some of the macroeconomic variables change, particularly like we saw in 2023 when the environment was not very favorable, that also affects the macroeconomic variables that go into the simulations. But I am glad to say that the policy is very embedded, and it is a dynamic policy that we dynamically look at, and that then determines the level of provisions that we carry in our balance sheet. I think those are the questions that I picked up on the numbers, and happy to have discussed those. Thank you.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'll just quickly touch on finance bill. There's a question on the finance bill, how it will affect our operations. I think, first of all, it's still going through the discussions and the public participation. The only comment I would like to make is that, first of all, the introduction of VAT on the financial transactions, that definitely increases the cost of banking, which would be unfortunate, because as we know, whether it's when clients or customers, whether it's traders, businesses, if their transaction cost increases, then they will start finding new ways of minimizing those costs. Kenya has come a long way in terms of driving financial inclusion. Whether it's with the launch of M-Pesa and on the banking system as well, that a lot of Kenyans have come into the system. However, if that cost keeps on increasing, then it's very likely that people will start considering other options of payment, least of which will be cash. So that is an area that causes us on concern. In terms of preparedness, once all the hurdles are crossed, if it's eventually passed into law, obviously on our side, the bank will have to adapt and upgrade our systems to be able to capture not only the increased excise duty, but also the new VAT on financial services that will have to take place. So those are some of the internally we have to prepare, but also it's a comment to make that from a banking perspective, it is important that we retain financial services or banking, the cost of transaction, as moderately priced as possible, without unnecessarily increasing the cost for the clients when they want to transact using the banking system, which is very, very important. Thanks very much. Over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Kariuki and Chamtai, for those comprehensive responses. Shareholders, I trust that we have now considered all matters contained in the annual report and the questions raised by shareholders. The Q&A session on the financial statements is now closed. I will now request the Secretary to read out the proposed resolution with respect to the financial statements and to confirm whether we have a proposer and seconder for the resolution.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Shareholders, the first resolution put before you reads as follows. To receive, consider, and if thought fit, adopt the annual report and financial statements of the company for the year ended 31st December 2023, together with the reports of the directors, statements of the chairperson and chief executive officer, and auditor's report thereon. The resolution has been proposed by Mbula Asha Shaban and seconded by Arnold Chege Murigi.
I now put the resolution to the meeting and ask the shareholders to vote. We now move on to agenda item number 3 on the dividends. The next item on the agenda is to confirm the payment of interim dividends on the ordinary and preference shares, and to approve the payment of a final dividend on the ordinary and preference shares. I now ask the Secretary to read the resolutions and to confirm whether we have a proposer and seconder for the resolutions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Shareholders, the second resolution put before you reads as follows. Part A, to confirm the payment of one interim dividend of 6 shillings declared on 22nd November 2023 and paid on 29th December 2023 for each ordinary share, and to approve the payment of a final dividend of 23 shillings for each ordinary share of 5 shillings on the issued share capital of the company in respect of the year ended 31st December 2023. This makes the total dividend payout for the year ended 31st December 2023, 29 shillings per ordinary share. The resolution has been proposed by Edward Basil Jenga Wanyoike and seconded by Bariso Herbo. Part B, to confirm the payment of one interim dividend of 83,309,589 declared on 22nd November and paid on 29th December 2023, and to approve the payment of a final dividend of Kenya shillings 84,690,411 on the non-redeemable, non-cumulative, non-voting, non-participating, and non-convertible preference shares. The resolution has been proposed by Julia Wangare and seconded by Maximila Ambogo Kiganga.
I now put the resolution to the meeting and ask shareholders to vote. The next agenda item is the election of directors who retire in accordance with the provisions of the company's Articles of Association. The profiles of the directors retiring at this meeting and who offer themselves for re-election are set out on pages 59 to 62 of the annual report. I now ask the Secretary to read the next resolution and to confirm whether we have a proposer and a seconder.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, the next resolution reads as follows. To elect Mr. David Ongolo, a director retiring by rotation, who being eligible offers himself for re-election in accordance with Article 107A of the company's Articles of Association. The resolution has been proposed by Samuel Kibe Kongo and seconded by Peter Adams Ludava.
I now put the resolution to the meeting and ask the shareholders to vote.
What?
Secretary, please read the next resolution and confirm whether we have a proposer and a seconder.
Guys, I'm voting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, the next resolution put before you reads as follows. To elect Mr. Richard Etemesi, a director retiring by rotation, who being eligible offers himself for re-election in accordance with Article 107A of the company's Articles of Association. The resolution has been proposed by Arnold Chege Mirigi and seconded by Ruben Kutosi Walukana.
I now put the resolution to the meeting and ask shareholders to vote. Secretary, please read the next resolution and confirm whether we have a proposer and seconder.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, the next resolution put before you reads as follows. To elect Mrs. Nivedita Sharma, a director retiring by rotation, who being eligible offers herself for re-election in accordance with Article 107 of the company's Articles of Association. The resolution has been proposed by James Mwaura Kiongo and seconded by Richard Morioki Gitude.
I now put the resolution to the meeting and ask the shareholders to vote.
Yes.
The next matter to be dealt with is the approval of the directors' report on the remuneration paid to the directors for the year ended 31st December 2023 and to authorize the board to fix the directors' remuneration for the year 2024. The directors' remuneration report can be found on pages 109 to 112 of the annual report. I now ask the Secretary to read the resolution to be passed and to confirm whether we have a proposer and seconder for the resolution.
Thank you, Chair. Shareholders, the next resolution put before you reads as follows. To approve the Directors' Remuneration Report and the remuneration paid to the Directors for the year ended 31st December 2023, and to authorize the Board to fix the remuneration of the Directors for the year 2024. The resolution has been proposed by Apollo Olubero Mbeta and seconded by Misati Abuga.
I now put the resolution to the meeting and ask shareholders to vote. The next matter on the agenda is the reappointment of Ernst & Young LLP as the auditors of the company in accordance with Section 721 of the Companies Act 2015, subject to Section 24(1) of the Banking Act, and to authorize the directors to fix the auditor's remuneration. Ernst & Young have confirmed their willingness to continue as the auditor of the company. I now ask the Company Secretary to read the resolution to be passed and to confirm whether we have a proposer and seconder of the resolution.
Thank you, Chair. Shareholders, the next resolution put before you reads as follows. To approve the reappointment of Ernst & Young LLP as the auditor of the company for the year 2024 in accordance with Section 721 of the Companies Act 2015 and subject to Section 24 subsection 1 of the Banking Act, and to authorize the directors to fix their remuneration. The resolution has been proposed by Peter Adams Ludava and seconded by John Gatiba.
I now put the resolution to the meeting and ask shareholders to vote. The next item on the agenda is to delegate authority to the board for purposes of formulating and approving various policies on remuneration, effective communication, corporate disclosures, dispute resolution, and attraction and retention of directors of the company. I now ask the Secretary to read the resolution to be passed and to confirm whether we have a proposer and seconder of the resolution.
Thank you, Chair. Shareholders, the next resolution put before you reads as follows. To generally authorize the board to formulate, approve, and regularly review policy documents as a continuing obligation as required under Regulation F13 of the Capital Market Securities Public Offers Listing and Disclosures Regulations 2002 for remuneration, effective communication with stakeholders, corporate disclosure policies and procedures, dispute resolution for internal and external disputes, and attraction and retention of directors of the company. The resolution has been proposed by Margaret Ndukun Zhao and seconded by John Nganga Dungo.
I now put the resolution to the meeting and ask shareholders to vote. Shareholders, as mentioned earlier, the vote results of various motions will be announced prior to the closure of this meeting. I therefore encourage shareholders who are yet to exercise their voting rights to do so now, within the next 5 minutes. As they do this, let us watch a brief video on the company.
We've now hit 300,000 participants since the marathon began, and we're very proud of you.
And Future Makers is our foundation that assists people on employment, entrepreneurship, and education. So that's why we're going to target the funds. We're working with people from the disadvantaged informal settlements from all over Kenya, and they are the people we're going to help with the funds that we have raised today. So thank you very much. It's a big turnout, and I'm really happy that we have Brian and everybody, for whatever reason they were running, they made a big contribution to Future Makers.
The second half of the year opened with a fresh round of visits from our global colleagues. Andy Halford, Group CFO, came to Kenya on the eve of his retirement from the bank. Judy Su, CEO CBPP, held a deep dive visit to the market. Later, we welcomed Raul Noel, Group CTTO, who joined us to hold town halls and provide mentorship and support to young entrepreneurs. In July, we launched the 6th cohort of Women in Tech, and in October, we graduated them. 7 lucky female-led businesses received just under 10 million shillings in seed funding. We also launched SC Win in July as part of our drive to accelerate funding for women-led businesses. We held an open day for our partners where SMEs showcased and sold their products. And we took care of our clients by hosting golf days such as this one at Royal Golf Club. Let's talk products. In August, we launched the Signature CIO Fund. And remember SC Shilingi funds? They are now responsible for over 2 billion in AUM. September also saw us launch the Switch Your Salo Bank Better campaign to reward new account holders. And we reminded ourselves of our key stakeholders as we celebrated our clients during Customer Service Week. Meanwhile, we progressed our work with communities by running several Future Makers mentorship programs and gave back through our EV days. September was all about planning. We held 2 high-level engagements during the Africa Climate Summit held in Nairobi and announced a transformative deal with Safaricom. In other fields, our partnership with the Reds continued. Our joint sponsorship of the Diamond FC Club ensures that we continue to support and provide financial literacy tools for the youth. Liverpool legend Luis Garcia visited us just ahead of the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon. And speaking of the marathon, we held the 20th edition with record numbers of participants joining us to raise funds towards Future Makers. In the run-up to the main race in October, we held launch events and run challenges with staff, running clubs, and clients across the country. And this year, we broke records. We received a record 178 million in sponsorship and had over 22,000 people run the actual race. The marathon has attracted over 300,000 participants, and so far over the last 20 years, we have raised over 672 million towards Seeing is Believing and Future Makers. Back at the office, we announced enhanced benefits for our colleagues. New dads get 6 months off, and now we have a new menopause cover. We have changed our ways of working through the Future Workplace Now initiative, and our leadership team held a CLT meeting where they recommitted to our values of going further, faster, together. And so as we close the year, we are reminded that our work to connect clients, markets, and communities remains a critical element of our strategy. Our purpose to be here for good is the engine that powers our growth, as seen in our latest Q3 earnings. Our performance aligns perfectly with our New Possibilities Are Everywhere campaign, which went live in November. And it's an award-winning strategy. Here is a view of the over 10 awards we have received in the second half of the year. Good job, team.
Shareholders, voting is now closed. I request the Company Secretary to present the results of the voting exercise.
Shareholders, the vote results of the various motions are now displaying on your screens. Chairperson, with your permission, I will not read out the detail of each resolution, but I will confirm if each resolution has been approved or otherwise. The results will be uploaded on the company's website within 24 hours. Part A, the motion to adopt the annual audited financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2023 has been passed. B, or number 2, the motion to confirm the payment of the interim dividends and approve the payment of the final dividends has been passed. Number 3, the motions to re-elect Mr. David Ongolo, Mr. Richard Etemesi, and Mrs. Nivedita Sharma as directors of the company has been passed. 4, the motion to approve the directors' report on remuneration and to authorize the board to fix the remuneration of the directors for the year 2024 has also been passed. Number 5, or Part E, the motion to reappoint Ernst & Young LLP as the auditor of the company and to authorize the directors to fix their remuneration has been passed. Lastly, the motion to delegate authority to the board for purposes of formulating and approving various policies on remuneration, on effective communication, corporate disclosures, dispute resolution, and attraction and retention of directors of the company has been passed.
Thank you. I will now ask the Secretary to confirm whether there is any other business for discussion for which due notice. I will now ask the Secretary to confirm whether there is any other business for discussion for which due notice was given.
I confirm that there is no other business for discussion for which due notice was given.
There being no other business of which due notice has been given, I take this opportunity to thank you once again for attending the meeting. That concludes the business of the 38th Annual General Meeting. I thank you for your attendance, and I declare the meeting officially closed.
So guys, I was virtually attending the annual general meeting of Standard Chartered Bank. I am an ordinary shareholder in that bank, and so it was important that I do attend to that, to the AGM, yeah, annual general meeting. And the highlights for me is what they are doing on the carbon emission, yeah, and the fact that they are going to take care of, they've already designed products that are going to take care of the small and medium enterprises. That makes me very happy, because I know so many people who are in small businesses. They've said they've developed products that are going to bring those people on board. And then their tech on climate change, very important. And the fact that they are also taking part in planting trees. You know, the government has an ambitious plan of planting 15 billion trees. So the fact that they are also part of it shows that they are a caring bank. The fact that the marathon, every year in October, they get many people. It seems this marathon will never go anywhere. It's here with us, and it's helping people, and the proceeds get spent. Is very important that they are using that money for the future makers, that is developing our young people in enterprises, yeah, to learn enterprises, innovations, yeah, and also taking care of the young ones with below 5 years. For the eye clinics, taking care of the cataracts for the below 5 years, very important for the future generation. And the fact that they are also there, yeah, they're also there supporting sports, like supporting the Liverpool Football Club, yeah, and sponsoring them all the time, even though at times they let us down by not winning the games, but they have their back. And then the fact that the directors are looking into the policies. They review the policy documents and talk on our behalf is very good. And also the fact that they are also taking part in the finance bill, the one that is in Parliament and is now going through public participation. They are also in it and digging to see the nitty-gritty and how it's going to affect the common Kenyan, the common mwananchi. It's very good. Yeah, maybe the government will hear their input and then decide otherwise. Yeah. So the finance bill 2024-2025, their input into that bill, how it's going to affect the common person, and people might design other ways of transacting, might sway the vote in favor of the common man. So that is what the highlights that are picked from that particular AGM, and also 23% for every 5 shilling ordinary share. It's very, very encouraging. So I look forward to just hearing something on my M-Pesa. That sound that tells you money has come in. So guys, that is what was going on with your mama today. Yes. Thank you. I'm in my office. My office. I told you this, my office, where I shoot from. So thank you so much, and may you be blessed.